So, as of this morning, of course, we had a number of internet issues with an overload and a massive load on, I think, telephone lines and exchanges. Exchanges have crashed today as well. Kelly's kindly come back, as the other panellists have also done today, to give us a high definition audio and video commentary instead of what we experienced on lag this morning. So Kelly, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. So tell me about this incredibly anxious time from the perspective of bookkeepers. You've got, nearly 5,000 actually in the support group. Yeah. What are they saying? What are they telling you? What are they asking from you?
Yeah, so the questions that we're mainly getting are around how the stimulus package actually works, what their clients are entitled to, especially sole traders, because we're finding that they're very much left out in the cold. They're talking about wrapping up businesses, redundancies, how do they treat is it a redundancy or is it just an annual leave and personal leave, or if they're sick, what do they do? So it's all around the logistics of how all of this comes together and how they best support their clients, and then others are wrapping up their clients. So of course the emotional support and just the everything that goes with that. I mean, we've had a lot of bookkeepers who are quite distressed because of having to wrap up clients' businesses, or in my case, I've had clients who have had to dump staff, unfortunately, and it's horrific and it's awful, but we need to be able to cope with that and deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Look, when we stop and we're really honest with ourselves as a profession, I mean, I'm talking about the advice profession, accountants, bookkeepers, financial advisors, even mortgage brokers. We're all hurting, we're all anxious, we've got our own fears and issues, but the challenge is to stay brave, isn't it?
You absolutely have to, and something that I've done with a lot of my clients is weeks ago, I sent them out a crisis template sort of thing, asking them the questions of how they're going to survive. Do they need to put off staff now? Do they need to implement home working procedures? All those kind of things, which I think has helped them really think about what they need to do in their businesses. So we need to be proactive and we need to get in there and help them as best we can, and try not to get caught up in the emotional side of it. We need to be their rock and we need to be able to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're advising of accountants is to be quite clinical in allocating dedicated time for a set amount of time, dare I say, to their clients that are in a stage 1 affected crisis. So, rather than letting the entire day go in crisis management for those clients, being quite clinical and recognising that they've got to spend some time working for and generating invoices to clients that have got some sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. You still need to be able to function and still need to be able to work, and you still need to be able to earn an income yourself. So it's a very fine line, it's a very fine balance. And while we need to spend time on wrapping up these businesses, it's not really going anywhere. So you need to also be productive and spend time with those clients that you can help, that you can support, and that will weather this storm.
Yeah. Anything else that's come up or during the course of today? Any new news for you?
No, just mainly it's heartbreaking to watch a lot of my friends lose their jobs, because they were in sporting facilities and all that kind of stuff, and retail and whatnot. So there's a lot of that going around. So it's pretty devastating for all. I watched the Centrelink line today in South Melbourne, and it was lined up around the street all day. It's just heartbreaking, but you really need to be proactive. Let's try and save as many businesses as we can, and just try and be very clinical, very straight with what your information you're giving them, and make sure that you're keeping in contact and communication at least once every 48 hours, just to let them know what the changes are, because they are coming in fast and thick at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for coming back. All of Australia was on, it's so many on today.
Yeah.
There's a big job ahead. We've already set up the Facebook group.
Yes.
So,
awesome.
We're out there, aren't we? We'll keep our chins up.
Yep.
And we'll keep communicating. We'll keep sharing.
And we'll keep doing whatever we can to support you guys in this, and hopefully we can support you guys in weathering the storm as well in your businesses.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
No worries, thanks.
Troy, are you right to go? Just in terms of an opening observation there on behalf of the accountants?
Yes, I am, mate. Yeah, ready to go. I see on the chat line there are a number of attendees that can't hear, but I think we've just got to press on. Interested to hear Kelly's comments. The accounting industry, from what I can see and hear through our connections, is pretty much the same. The challenges that we've got is, what the worldwide's faced with at the moment is all new to us. So there's quite a few professionals out there that think that can be ready-made experts overnight. I don't think that's the case. As far as the stimulus packages that's been released, they are, they're quite expansive, but to a certain degree, they are fairly simple to get our heads around. Especially a lot of the document, once it's been assented from the 24, 48 hours ago, I think some of the measures are fairly concrete. The challenges that we face is basically as an industry, I think, not as individual accounting practices. For us in our business, we've got to decide how do we, as professionals, reach out to our client base. That's our challenge. I think right now with our business clients, there's not panic yet. There's just the word that keeps coming up amongst our team is uncertainty. The clients just don't really know what they're entitled to, whether that be from a basic, separation form to setting up a MyGov account. We've got the challenges with all the Centrelink online system breaking down. So, we've got the bottom end of the scale to the top end of the scale wanting to know exactly what they can do. So that's the challenge. So in our business, we've got 300 plus business clients. Now, how do we reach out to each and every one of those in a systematic, methodical way? Some that may not even want to hear from us. So the challenge for us is how do we free ourselves up and reposition ourselves within our business so that we've got the capacity to look after the one-on-one cases as they come along. So to me, that's the biggest challenge. I think it's fraught with danger if practices or practitioners want to try and be good at everything. I think if everyone to their own, but this is how we're looking at our business. I think what we need to be looking at as an industry is a pathway or a system where our clients can channel their inquiries to a certain platform, and basically like a self-answer system that you can. This is my main query. What does it relate to? And then drill down. So you basically get okay, this is what your centralised issue and problem is. So as an industry, if we could somehow find a formula for that, I think that would allow us as accountants to really focus on what we should be doing. We should be simply repositioning our workload and our resources, spend the time to train up our entire team. So you're not just relying on the lead advisors or the principal of your practice. And there's a lot of sole traders out there too, sole practitioners. So, how do they manage all that workload? It's really uncharted territory, but we can't just sit here with our head in the sand. We've got to be ready. We've got to be prepared, and we've got to be freed up so that we can, as I said, get to those one-on-one clients with detail and help them out.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Thanks, Kelly. What's really interesting is the huge amount of anxiety that has to somehow be vetted, received, and managed by accountants, bookkeepers, mortgage brokers, and financial planners. Right? It's massive. And so you've got the combination of your existing clients that are suddenly in trouble, that are in the stage one, affected by stage one from Sunday till last night, and then of course you've got your existing client work as well. Now the interesting thing is, listening to the GM of Centrelink on the ABC this morning, a significant number of the inquiries they're getting are from existing Centrelink clients that are already registered with Centrelink, and they're trying to access more money. And of course, it's overloading the system. Now, here's a really interesting thing, isn't it? If you're already a Centrelink registered benefactor, if you like, Centrelink is automatically increasing your fortnightly payments without you needing to contact them at all. Now, isn't that important information for us to get out to our client base? That they don't even need to contact Centrelink. They don't have to go there. They don't have to queue up. They don't have to try and they're crashing the system. And here's a great example of some of the information that you're talking about, Troy and Kelly, that if we can centralise some effective key communication, we may be able to reduce the panic and the anxiety and the workload on our health and government services that are going to be so essential right now. Okay. I'm going to ask Andrew Conway to come online and share his perspective.
Yeah, thanks, John, and good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And thanks to Kelly and Troy for giving their perspectives as well. So we just need to have that mindset, and I think government is wanting us to have that mindset as well. And if we look at a lot of the timeframes government's putting in place with the measures they've introduced, they're talking about timeframes of 6 months. If I think, for example, around the businesses in distress, the insolvency measures and protections now, they're looking at that 6 month window to give business some breathing space, and also issues around guarantees and no repayments on loan guarantees of up to 250,000. So government clearly has a sense of 6 months trying to reach where we are now and where we need to be. So I just think we need to have that landscape, that horizon in our minds, and certainly what we've been saying to members in the last few years is very much the mindset that we're being told by government. We just need to help navigate through that. So I'll start with some very high-level points. One is, you might have heard the Prime Minister last night declare that any worker is an essential worker. What we've indicated to government, and we've also sought the clarification from the Assistant Treasurer, is that the role of tax agents and BAS are essential services, because I think it's important to have that perspective that you are being inundated, and we know you're being inundated on an hourly basis. I was speaking to a member yesterday in Perth who just said the phone just hasn't stopped, the emails haven't stopped, and at some point in the distant future, I might get to actually billing some time. So we understand that there's a massive inundation of queries coming to you. So in that sense, it's probably never been more important to stay on top of the information and basically relying on bodies, whether it's best practice or IPA, CPA, CAs, whoever you're a member of, AAT, to actually wade through that for you. And you've got reason to expect that. That's our job to do. So with that, the number one thing members are raising with us, and I'm sure I don't think it'll be any different here, is the issue of the cash flow support for employers and the measures the government's introduced. Started with a $2,000 minimum, up to the $10,000 minimum, up to $100,000 for eligible business. Members are saying to us, by clients, well, I'm a director, I've never drawn a wage, how's this going to affect me? And of course, government has indicated language like this measure will be subject to, I think the actual wording is a specific integrity rule. So we need to know what that means. What we're finding is clients are asking our members to help them set themselves up to ensure they qualify. But we just need to be mindful that whilst there might be some clever structures going on and some intention, we understand the intent. We've got to make sure that whatever advice is being given is reflecting what the law does allow. But these are sort of the things we're trying to navigate through with the ATO to get some clarity on. In terms of what does that integrity rule mean, and will there be some grace exercised? Our philosophical argument is that there should be relief given to directors who, for whatever reason, given their structure, common structures, trust structures and dividends and so forth, have never drawn a wage. We think it's important that they get access to relief as well. So it's a question of how that integrity rule will play out. On that specific matter, we're taking that up with the Commissioner this week. There's a meeting with the Commissioner and the National Tax Liaison Group. We're taking that specific issue up to actually get them greater clarity for all concerned. But I come back to that notion of timeline, that there is that sense that this is a significant marathon, not the sprint, and we need to be encouraging clients to be thinking along a similar line. Similarly, the additional issue we are being asked by members to advocate for them on is a deferral of all ATO lodgements. And we think that's reasonable. Obviously, Treasury won't think it's reasonable because they need to go into the system. But we think it's absolutely critical for all lodgements to be deferred, and we want that to be in place for, we think, possibly up to 3 months, but basically deferring lodgements through to June 30. Just going back to the issue around employers and the issue of the advice given. Now, accepting the fact that I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an HR specialist, none of our members are either, or most of our members are not either. The advice we give to clients is really important at this time. There was a federal court case last year that suggested that the advice given by an accountant or a tax agent in relation to employment matters can be deemed to be relied upon as professional advice. The advice that was given at that time was wrong, and the employer was exposed and fined. I think it's an important point around how we manage and give advice to clients in relation to employment matters, because at the moment, obviously, a lot of businesses are rushing to make staff redundant or terminate staff. And obviously, not just the issues in relation to fair work, but important can be issues related to the matter of cash flow relating to that business in terms of payment of leave entitlements and redundancy. So I think it's really important to be mindful around that and making sure that there are other opportunities available. For example, Fair Work does provide things like a stand-down provision for employers to provide to employees. So again, it comes back to giving business that time to navigate through this change. It was raised before by Kelly in terms of the human impact, and I think it's really important that is taken, that there is huge human impact in this matter and this evolving situation. To be mindful as well as of your own well-being. For an organisation like ours, we've actually reached out and we have suggested to members, if they wish to, we can connect them up with our mental health. On the basis you can hear me okay, the very in base summary point, let me just cover off if you can hear me now. We are focusing on these specific integrity rules in relation to the business cash flow support and getting some guidance around businesses that might be wishing to transfer across the owner or the director of the business to an employee to get access to these. The government has said that's not the intent of the legislation, so we just need to be giving clear guidance around that. We're taking that up with the ATO this week. The other point I was making is that we are making requests to the ATO to defer all lodgements until June 30 to give practitioners time to get on top of these measures and also provide good support to members. We are also making the point that you've got to be very careful around employees and standing employees down and not imposing additional cash flow burdens on businesses in the short term, as the government's looking at a 6-month window of opportunity around navigating through these times. So making sure we're actually providing support to business owners and business managers around perhaps standing people down in the short term rather than laying people off, because that gives rise to termination payments and also redundancy benefits. The human toll as well is really important. So I think it's very important that we do make a connection to support services that might be available from an IPA point of view. We provide a wellbeing service for members and access to mental health triage support as well. So be conscious of that. And also pushing back to professional bodies to making sure they're doing their bit. In our case, we actually will be providing members plenty of time with renewals this year. We've frozen member fees. We've also suspended all compliance audits. So to Kathy's point earlier around QA, the IPA will not be conducting any QA reviews until at least after December 31 this year. So all QA reviews are suspended because we don't want to be adding to the burden. So I'll pause there. Hopefully that you've been able to hear some of that. And I do apologise because I know it can be frustrating on the other end. I'm equally happy to provide any further information as required through John and the team.
Okay, so hi everyone. I know there was a little bit of confusion around the video and the audio, so an opportunity to talk to you briefly around some of the views of the IPA and my views and the advocacy we're doing at the moment. The points I was making really in relation to the situation we're finding ourselves in as a profession is really we need to be thinking first and foremost about this as a marathon and not a sprint. And certainly all the messages out of government have been the same, that government measures are looking at a window of around 6 months, both the insolvency measures, for example, the SME loan and the loan guarantees, with a 6-month window as well. So the government's sense is, can we try and navigate through this next 6 months? So easy for us to say to clients not to panic, but I think we need to be thinking about this more as a marathon and not a sprint, because at the moment it feels as though a few of us, I think, and certainly clients, are probably running out of puff. Certainly practitioners who have been in touch with me in recent days saying they've just been inundated. So that's the first point. Yes, there is an inundation of queries and questions coming from clients, and we're hearing those as well from members right across the board. But the critical thing members are passing through to us is the lack of clarity around the issue of the employer incentive or the employer initiative, and that is the up to $100,000 payment available to those employing businesses. The challenge here is, of course, for directors, or depending on the structure, common structures of trusts where directors and owners would have relied upon trust distributions, for example, or dividends, rather than a PAYG situation. And of course, this measure relates specifically to employers. And so there's a lot of push, I know, from directors to be listed as employees. But just be mindful of the fact that the government has announced, and the ATO has referred to the fact that there will be a specific integrity rule in relation to this measure. So that will effectively look to restrict or not allow a change of status from a director and employer becoming an employee. So just be mindful of that. We're looking at some more guidance from the ATO about that this week. We're also advocating heavily. So that first point really is around the business and the employer situation, the cash flow support. The second point I'd make to you is in relation to the ATO and the importance of giving you bandwidth and capacity to do what you need to do. So we'll be advocating to the ATO and the Commissioner this week to impose an immediate deferral of all lodgements. And that deferral should be in place, in our view, until around the 30th of June, which would give you and give businesses a chance to get on top of this information that's coming through. So that deferral, the ATO deferral, is really critical. Obviously, Treasury won't like that, but we think it's important for the sake of the system that we're able to have a bit more breathing space to get through this work. A number of members have said to me in recent days that the number of queries they've been fielding from clients has been profound, and they have remarked sort of tongue-in-cheek that at some point they might get around to doing some billable work. So just be mindful, we're mindful of that practical challenge as well. The third point I'd make is that we need to be very careful around the issue of employees and the termination of employees, and making sure that we're not creating additional challenges for small businesses when it comes to a cash flow point of view, because if an employee is terminated, of course, depending on the situation, could give rise to redundancy payments, obviously leave entitlements, which could all exacerbate the cash flow burden the business is facing. So for us to be mindful of that, also to be mindful of the fact that we are not HR legal experts, and it's important to rely upon good advice when it comes to issues around fair work and the provisions of the Fair Work Act. There are provisions there around things like stand down provisions for businesses that are facing difficult times. So it might be an opportunity to think about those rather than necessarily moving straight to the termination provisions or letting people go. The further point I'd make is in relation to the human impact and the human toll of this, and making sure you are being connected to appropriate support. From an IPA point of view, we provide mental health network support, and we do that to members to ensure their own well-being. It is that notion of putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on others. So be mindful of looking after yourselves in this difficult time as well. And also, finally, the fifth point I was going to make is in relation to professional bodies. You've got a right to expect a lot from professional bodies at this point. From our point of view, we are not just helping to synthesize the massive amount of information that's out there and making it available to you in chunks that's digestible. But importantly also making sure we're stepping up to the plate as much as we can. So we've, for example, as an IPA, as an institute, we've frozen member fees for next year. We're providing extended periods of time for people to pay. So right through from April this year to give members plenty of time, in excess of 3 months additional time to pay. We're also making sure that we are not excessively burdening members with our compliance requirements. So all professional practice quality reviews have been suspended until at least the 31st of December this year. So there'll be no QA reviews, and our compliance monitoring and surveillance options will be suspended in that sense as well. So we don't want to be adding to the burden of you just trying to provide that service to clients. In addition, we are probably most importantly providing direct advocacy to the ATO and the Commissioner. So we need to be hearing from members about their views and taking those views up directly with government regulators and associated parties to make sure that the views are clearly understood, that this is a dire time for clients, to make sure they understand the challenge. But throughout the course of the next 6 months and beyond, we are actually equipped to provide our services as an essential service. We believe provision of tax agent services and BAS agent services are essential services to keep the wheels of the economy moving. And so we think it's really important that government and regulators give some respect to that position of the profession, and we continue to advocate for you. So that advocacy piece is really critical.
I'm going to ask Bill to jump in the hot seat here and give you the perspective from the banks. So please welcome Bill Sutton.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's Bill Sutton here. Listen, I've just come out of banks after 30 years of commercial finance, and I'm in the process of starting a mid-market debt advisory firm. And it's strange times. So in my 30 years plus of banking, I've never seen anything like this, and I've been through GFCs and the recessions that we had to have. So anyway, what happened last week was that the banks, the government, APRA, and the ABA all got in a room and over 2 days thrashed out what the bank's response would be to COVID-19. In essence, what's come out of that, and I've never seen banks regulators move so fast and the government move so fast, and this is how scared banks are of it. And actually what came out of it was that they were all in sort of alignment for the first time ever, and that they had to hold their nerve. So essentially the main takeouts are, for your business customers, there is a deferral of loan repayments for up to a period of 6 months. Importantly, with no new documentation, therefore cutting down any red tape. The waiver of merchant terminal rentals, and a new unsecured business loan of up to 250k with a 50% actual government guarantee. It's important. Many small business owners think that this is a grant. This is not a grant. This is a loan of up to 250 at K. So quickly, what we'll actually go through now is what you can do for your existing customers affected by COVID-19. What happens if your customer seeks amort deferral on loans of up to 6 months? How does your customer apply to actually seek that? And how does your customer apply for a loan of up to 250k with a 50% government guarantee? So I'll start for customers of existing actual banks now. So all banks have actually come out and actually dropped their interest rates for small business customers of somewhere between 50 to 400 basis points, depending on the type of loan that you have. The big four banks and the big four own actual banks have said that for all business loans, chattel mortgages, finance leases, and hire purchases, that SMEs can actually defer repayments for up to 6 months. What happens on the end of that is that extra loan repayments will be tacked onto the term of the loan, and after 6 months, if you can't afford it, you'll then need to renegotiate that position with the bank. How does the customer apply for this? So most banks will have an apply online, So you simply, if you're with Westpac, if you're with NAB, you actually go in and your SME asks for a call back. All the banks have actually set up teams to actually call these customers back. Or there's an apply online form. Or if your customer has a named banker, they can call their named banker to actually help get them come through it. Importantly, your customers will be asked several questions. One, how has your business been affected by COVID-19? What have you done as a business owner to help get you through this? So if you've laid off staff, if you've called the landlord to seek a rent I suppose reduction, have you changed your restaurant so that it's takeaway, right? So what are you doing, etc. So those are the questions that your customers will be asked. Who can apply for the loan like deferrals? All SMEs that turn over up to $50 million. Okay, so that's probably 90% of the customers that are actually out there. Importantly, what banks will look at is total aggregated loans of somewhere between 3 to 5 mil. So if you have 5 mil, more than 3 to 5 mil of business and personal borrowings, you'll be considered a sophisticated customer. So you might not apply for this. But normally those customers that have more than 3 to 5 mil worth of actual debt will have a named banker, and they should contact their named banker. What other information is required? And this is where I suppose you guys help. Management accounts to at least 31/1/2020 and copies of your last 2 BAS payments. Importantly, why banks will ask for that is because they will want to know that your business was solvent or your customer's business was solvent as at 31/1/20. If your business was losing money or it was already solvent, it's going to be difficult for a bank to actually help them out. And if your customer falls outside those SME actual guidelines, they'll have a named banker, they'll be in corporate, they'll have senior business bankers, they should bring them direct. Importantly, what came out was a 50% actual guarantee by the government for new lending applications of up to 250,000 for businesses affected. What does this mean? It's not an actual government grant. So I spoke to several bankers who have had calls from small business customers thinking that it's a government grant. It's not. What it is it's a loan to cover the expenses of the business. So when applying for that loan application, you'll need your customer's last 2 BAS returns, and also financial information, probably to 31/12 and preferably 31/1, and then preferably 28/2, so that a bank can see the effects of the COVID impact. Importantly, with that is that this loan isn't to cover lifestyle. So I need to continue to pull out my $5,000 per week because I need to pay the family bills, and I need to pay the school fees, and I need to pay the lease on X. What it is it's a loan while business slows down is to help cover those on fixed costs, right? So it's up to 250,000, and there's no limit that the amount of times that a customer can apply for it. So customer A might apply for $100,000 now, right? And in 3 months' time, when all this clears up, they might say, well, I need another 50,000 because I've got to re-engage my business again. So they can apply for of 100,000 and then a further 50,000. Importantly, what you need to know is that these loans are for a maximum of 36 months. The first 6 months, principal will be deferred, so they're interest only. But after month 6, these loans need to be paid back within a 30-month period. So if your customer takes out a $200K loan, after month 6, they need to pay $6,600 per month plus interest. So if you're helping your customer through that, they just need to be careful of the debt that they take on, knowing that they can afford it down the track. How do you apply? Most banks will have an apply online. So if you're with NAB, it'll be via their QuickBiz platform. If you're within CBA, it'll be by their actual Better Business Loan. And most banks will have a callback if you can't get through. How fast and how efficient that will be, we will have to see. And I suppose, what else do you need to know? So one, as I said, your businesses need to be solvent when they apply for prior to the COVID outbreak. So as of 31/1, they had to be trading like profitably. They can apply for the loan multiple times. And the only security for the loan is the directors or the business owner's personal guarantee. So that's an update of the response. The other things that are out there are the deferral of merchant terminal fees for the next 3 to 6 months. So if you have a retail customer, I would encourage you to tell them to get in contact with their bank so that they can stop paying their $20 or $30 per month merchant service fees. And for any more larger, complex ones, I'm happy to speak to any of you via email if you need a hand to actually step through them. Thanks, John.
Well done, Bill. Okay, so welcome, Bill, and thanks for jumping on today's webinar for our national broadcast. We're editing in a high quality version of your contribution today. So, Bill, we've got your slides up here, and Bill's, of course, it's got a distinguished career with the major banks, moving now into this important chapter. Bill, off we go, mate. Should we start? If I just click down to the next one, is that?
Yeah, thanks, John. So just so everyone knows, I had 30 years inside large commercial banks, running teams, setting like strategy, etc., and at the moment starting my own mid-market debt advisory firm. But importantly, what happened last Thursday, Friday was that the banks, APRA, the government, and the ABA, which is the Australian Bankers Association, all got to gather to talk about what their response would be to COVID-19. And pleasingly, what came out of the 2 days was a way forward for customers, and how all the big four banks and the banks they own would actually deal with COVID-19 customers affected by that. In my experience, I've never seen all these groups come together for the same common cause. And I can't believe that they've knocked it out within 2 days. But the main takeouts that I like to take everyone through today are the deferral of business loan repayments for up to 6 months with no new documentation, therefore cutting lots of red tape. Secondly is the waiver of merchant terminal rentals for your merchant actual customers. So if you've got any customers out there that are retailers, that are in fast food, that have been affected by COVID, please contact your bank and you'll have those merchant terminal fees and refunded. The third one is how to secure the new $250,000 ACT dollar loan with up to a 50% actual government guarantee. You should note, this is not a grant, but it's a loan that the government will guarantee by up to 50%. So what we'll take you through, what can you do for your existing customers that are affected by COVID-19? What happens if your customer seeks amortization deferral for up to 6 months? And how does your customer apply for that? Also, how do your customers apply for the new $250K unsecured loan supported by the government? Flick over to the next page, please, John.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the banks have actually come out and in support of customers have all dropped their prime rates to small business customers somewhere from 50 to 400 basis points. These are for smaller loans, but any interest rate off is a help for customers. All these price drops should come through over the next sort of 1 to 4 weeks. The next big thing is the deferral of loan amortization. So if you have a business customer that has term debt under a business loan, a hire purchase, a chattel mortgage, a finance lease, they can defer the loan repayments for up to 6 months. So what this will do is it'll actually free up cash flow for those SMEs to help stay afloat. You'll have to note though that after the 6-month period, the principal will be tacked on to the end of the loan expiry. So if you had 2.5 years to go and you defer the amortization for 6 months, that'll be tacked on 6 months down the track when hopefully business is back up and it's and running. How does your customer apply to have their principal deferred? Most banks will have an online form for your customer to actually fill out. They can request a callback, or they can fill out an online application form. Importantly, in that online application form and the questions that your customers might be asked, they actually might be asked how has COVID-19 affected their actual business and what have they actually done about it. So that might mean that they've spoken to their landlord, they've got a rent reduction of 20%. They've stood down some staff, they've asked some customers to keep paying some actual money, or they might have actually done a deal with their suppliers. But it's important that your customer actually knows that. So they're the sorts of questions that they might asked. Who can actually get it? So it's SME. So an SME is a business that turns over up to 50 mil. Normally with banks, this will be for aggregated borrowings of like less than 3 to 5 mil. Once you start to get over that 3 to 5 mil mark, which is the customer's business and their personal borrowings, they're considered to be a sophisticated, borrower, and they'll have to make different arrangements with their actual bank. This will cover 80 to 90% of businesses across Australia. What information, which is important that a bank might want for this? So they'll certainly want management accounts to at least 31/1/2020. That's to prove that the small business was solvent at prior to the outbreak of COVID, and the last two base payments. If a customer falls outside of this, it's because they'll be larger, they'll have more borrowings, and they'll be more complex. And those customers in the main will have a named banker, and they should contact their named banker.
Yep.
Okay, so next we move over to how do your customers apply for the new small business loans of up to 250,000? Importantly, the government will guarantee up to 50% of these bank loans, but this is not a government grant. Okay, so this same qualifying criteria will apply when banks assess a loan. So they'll need to be solvent as of 31/1, and most likely your customer will need to load up the last 2 BAS and returns. So the maximum term of these loans is up to 36 months with an initial repayment holiday for the first 6 months. So if your customer was to take out 200,000 and they had the first 6 months off, the balance would need to be paid over the next 30 months. So they'd be up for 6,600 per month from the from 6 months after they took out the loan plus interest, depending on these loans. What can the loan be used for?
Yeah.
Okay, these aren't loans to fund lifestyle, to pull owners' drawings out to pay school fees and other lifestyle things, but they're there to cover the fixed costs of the business whilst the business's income has been affected. So these would include things like rent, wages, power bills, supplier payments, and other expenses associated with the running of the business. Really important that your customers aren't actually actually putting in this because they've run out of money and they can't take drawings out to pay their own bills. If your customer's got a home loan and it's tied to the business, as most small businesses are, they can also seek amortisation relief on their home loans for up to a period of 3. Similar to existing customers that have loans. You'll need to supply their last 2 BAS returns and completed management accounts up to at least 31/12. Bankers will have an obligation to make sure that the loans are prudent and that before the outbreak happened, that the business could actually afford to pay back those loans. So that's good news for customers and some support to help them through these times. How do customers apply? Various banks will call them various different things. NAB will call it QuickBiz, which is their online platform. CBA will be via their Better Business Loan. Most of them can be done online, so they're online applications. What else do you need to know? These aren't grants, these are loans. So the security for the loan will just be the director or the business owner's personal guarantee. What that means is that if down the track that person can't pay that loan, that they'll still be liable for half of it, which is really important for your customer to understand. And importantly, that they can apply for the loan multiple times up to 250,000. So a customer might need 100,000 now to get them through for the next 3 months, or if not 4 months, but they might need a further 50,000 to help relaunch their business when it actually opens back up. So those are some of the initiatives that the banks have got together to work with, and that's. And it's not going to be easy, but the banks like you guys are at the front line taking questions from customers all the time. So please be patient, and it'll be interesting to see how they can navigate through this in a timely manner. Over to you, John.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Bill. And what I'm hearing the key points here are both for bookkeepers and accountants to really play a proactive role in driving that the accuracy and the timeliness of the BAS lodgements. The last 2 BASs have got to be, and management accounts, right? So
yep.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And I guess the challenge, of course, for somebody who's not currently in a facility with a bank is that they do have to go through the atypical approach, but am I correct that the banks are assigning call centres and callback processes to cater with that?
Yeah, so the banks are actually, from what I understand, speaking to colleagues inside of banks, is that they're building call centres and they're building capability to be able to process these loans and assess these loans quite quickly. I was talking to a former colleague in a major bank, it was yesterday, and they've said that they've sent their first lot of loan deferrals through and their first lot of new loans come through. Importantly, what that person told me was that if you're not with the major bank now, that just because you're not with them, that they'll still assess your loan up to 250,000. So just because you don't bank with someone doesn't mean that you can't apply for it.
So people shouldn't have a defeatist attitude. They should actually jump in and get an application going, providing they comply with the BAS lodgements and the management accounts. what about, I understand there's a bit of a win for an existing client of the major banks, is that right? In terms of making an application, they're already known to the bank?
Yeah, so if you're already known to the bank and the bank's got all your information, the bank can process it quite quickly. So to cut down like red tape, if you're deferring out your loan repayments of up to 6 months, the bank can actually do that under the existing documentation that you have for your loan. So you'll have no new documentation. Now that's really important because it means that you can pull that lever really quickly to leave that cash within your customer's business.
Yeah, so that's a great heads up for accountants and bookkeepers particularly, or even financial advisors, mortgage brokers, because if you've got existing clients that have already got some facilities in place, you can potentially help them quite quickly.
It's a real quick win.
Yeah, well done. Anything else in terms of how many banks are you aware that are participating in this model? Is it the big four? Is it more than just the big four?
Well, it's the big four and the majority of the second actual tiers. Each bank, and I've been through all their websites, will have a various response to it. But in the main, it's the big four and the banks and the two other brands owned by the big four, whether it be Bank West, St George Bank, Isle, like Melbourne, and the Macquarie Bank's got some packages out too. If you're with some of the other smaller ones, I think they're still working out what they'll do.
Yep.
Importantly, though, there's some really important stuff here that whilst there's lots of adversity with your business customers, there'll be clients that are in supply chain. There'll be moving food all over Australia. There'll be in packaging businesses. There'll be in healthcare services and infrastructure. Those clients will be consuming lots of working capital. And importantly, you need to understand if they've got enough money to actually get them through as they tool up and they gear up to help the country actually deal with the crisis. Banks look very favourable on those businesses right now, and we'll be moving hell and high water to actually get the right working capital and the right structures in place for those customers to be able to keep up like essential services to the Australian community.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's not all doom and gloom. There is a, as we've discussed offline, there's a percentage of the small business economy that is likely to thrive, and some of them already are, aren't they? In response to some of the demand that's out there. So we've got to get on the front foot and actually assist them as well, because the more businesses that are thriving, that's a micro win in every case for the economy.
And they're employing more people, and they're tooling up, and they're helping everyone, and it hopefully gets us out of this thing faster.
Yeah.
Importantly, though, what you'll have to think through and actually help your business owners think through. I had a call last week from a polymer company that supplies a certain component that needs to be built for this necessity thing, and the Australian dollar's moved down to 55 cents, and the cost of the polymer has gone up by 30-40%. They're getting calls from their buyers actually saying, can you guarantee us supply? But the business owner didn't want to put their price up. What we said to the business owner was, you have no choice but to put your price up. If the fixed costs have actually moved and you have the bargaining powers and you need to keep up supply, don't let your business actually go broke because you want to be a nice bloke. So important, as markets move, businesses need to adapt, and they need to move quickly, and they need to move quickly with price if they're in that situation that can adapt and actually help people out. Yeah,
fantastic. Bill, thanks for jumping on to recover the quality of some of the glitches we had this morning with that broadcast and internet stability. I'll be asking you back probably once a week because there's going to be plenty of progress and plenty of insights, as we can imagine, over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So thanks for joining us today.
No problems, John. It was my pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Bill, and in case you missed the prior communication, we're acknowledging the huge lag that we have experienced and that you, our attendees, have experienced, and we will be re-recording each panelist's contribution effective immediately as soon as we can get each of them available. We'll be blending that and giving you a post event professional quality recorded product from today's event. I think the key issues that I've heard from Kelly from a bookkeeper's perspective and from Troy from an accountant's perspective is we need to look at streamlining some national communications of some of these key elements to depressurize, particularly accountants and bookkeepers that are being smashed with a lot of grief and anxiety and stress in clients chasing support, money, guidance, the whole lot. So we'll look into that. There is a panel of best practice members that Kelly and Troy are both part of, and they have actually, and some others are on this call today. And we've been circulating some draft strategies in this regard. We'll invite everyone attending today to gain access to that dialogue so that you can all give your feedback about what you would like in terms of templated communications and methodologies to hopefully, from the 80-20 rule perspective, to calm down 80% of your client base. One of the things that we are recommending, I'll come back to a question there about loans for investment properties. One of the things that we're recommending for you is that you really have to, from a time management point of view, think about the traditional communication that the airlines would tell you about your own airline travelling safety. Put your own oxygen mask on before you assist your children or anyone else. What that means to you in your own practice is that we need you to identify in a very blatant way those clients of yours that are essentially in lockdown or have been shut down by government order. Those clients are in one bucket or one portfolio for you to manage, and you've got every other industry that essentially has a continuity opportunity to trade on. Now, you have to manage your time as a bookkeeper, an accountant, a mortgage broker, or a financial planner. You've got to manage your time and make sure that you're not spending all of your time with your crisis management clients, because you won't generate any invoices to other parties that could otherwise pay you and keep you in healthy trading. So you have to be fairly clinical in dividing up your time and working out and making sure if you're retaining team members as accountants, bookkeepers, mortgage brokers, financial planners, and support staff, you've got to educate them to understand that you must quarantine a percentage, perhaps more than 51% of your time, to in fact generating work for clients that have continuity. It's so important that this economy fights on and puts the gloves on and we all stand up and do what we can to keep trading. So your clients that can trade on must trade on. You must give them guidance, and you need to quarantine specifically a couple of hours a day for crisis management and guidance for everyone else. Okay, so in that regard, think about your own time management and the education of your own team members. Thanks, Glenda, for that the feedback there. So let's have a look. Let's have a look now into a couple of those questions that have come up. One of them was in relation to investment properties, and so what about investment properties, and will they get new funding, Bill?
So I'm not sure what the question is, if we're talking about new investment properties or if we're talking about loans that are actually already there. For home loan customers, they can apply to their bank and seek any principal repayments to be stopped for a period of 3 months. But once again, you need to say how you've been affected by the COVID outbreak. So that might mean you've lost your job, your tenant's moved out, or you've offered your tenant a 25% reduction in their rent just to keep your tenant in there for the next sort of 4 to 5 months till everyone gets back on their feet. But yes, speaking to former colleagues in all the big four banks, they were quite clear that said, yes, we are open for our own business and we are doing new loans because the world needs to keep on moving on. And you got to think about the opportunities of your customers that will actually come out of this. So those involved in food packaging, in the supply chain finance area for that are servicing supermarkets, those that are making healthcare like products, all that type of stuff. Those businesses are now booming. And just to restate, come John's point, you need to make sure you spend time with those customers because they'll need your help to actually navigate the growth of their business that it's actually going through right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Bill. Well said. So again, just in closing, some of the key points that we recognise is that many of you have asked specific questions, and you'll notice that Andrew has actually dropped on his own email address there into the group chat for all of you. So Andrew has himself and his own team, of course, are there to support particularly the IPA members, of course, but we are really essentially an unofficial task force or panel here, and I'm asking for Troy, Kelly, Bill, Andrew, and our extended networks to really come together at this time in need. We are all in this together. There is no point in us trying to tackle in a cottage style mindset our own communications out to clients. We will simply burn out. So we are putting together some templated communications. If anyone would like that, we'll circulate an email to all registrations to give you an ongoing group chat. We'll probably set up a crisis Facebook group and invite all registrations today into that group so that we've got an ongoing, clean and simple communication methodology there. Kelly and I will establish that in the next 24 hours, and you'll all be invited in. We'll send you an email with instructions. So, and those of you that are not on Facebook, of course, I think now is the time. You need to beef up your social connectivity to not only to stay in touch with people like ourselves and to have much more knowledge sharing, but also to greatly improve your client communications, and that's certainly something we're encouraging. So thanks again for everyone that's showed up today. We do apologise. It's very interesting that, that our Australian internet, I guess we were all critical when the NBN was announced a few years ago. Now we're realising just how essential it is for us to maintain our global competitiveness, that we need bulletproof internet. So yeah, we'll look into, for the next update, we'll look into some alternatives to counteract, such as more traditional and conventional GoToWebinar products as a platform that may, in fact, give us a more reliable broadcast platform in these sort of times with extensive load on our internet, particularly in Victoria, where everyone's already on school holidays. So thanks again. We understand your frustration, everybody, in your attendance today, and not getting the clear connections. I believe our panel are already happy to re-record privately their own commentary. We'll get that into a proper edited product for every single one of you. We'll invite you into a private national group, which will be opened up from a crisis point of view. And we are looking at some national communication templates for you that would enable you to streamline some of the the top 10 questions you're going to get from clients. Okay, so a question from Daisy: will we get answers to questions asked here? That is certainly our intention, Daisy. What we're doing, in fact, is we've got a national Q&A library. So Kelly, myself, Troy, Doudle, Bill Sutton, we've started at Best Practice, we've started compiling your questions. So every single question you have on behalf of a client that you haven't been able to answer, kindly email that through to us and we will add you to the Q&A response panel. So as we create that, you will receive alerts in your inbox on email. every time we update the Q&A master registry, you will gain access to that. And I hope that makes sense to you. Thank you very much again. From Sharon, Sharon's asking us who to email. I'll just type one in for everybody here now. So for everyone, you can simply type it into team@bpgrp.com.au. All of your questions for clients that you can't answer, email them in there, and we will add you to our national panel to receive ongoing updates and on the Q&A library as we're building that. Stay safe, everyone. Work from home if you can. We believe in you as a community. We know that together we can impact and reduce the anxiety and hopefully relieve some of the stress and the frustration that the entire country has to go through, because we're the only ones. You know, we are the small business community of support. So let's band together and help everyone out there as best we can. Stay safe, everybody. Talk to you soon.